Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Wow, another late night live stream, but what can I say? What can I do? When you have Donald Trump as your president, news comes whenever it comes. He might make a Truth Social post at 2 a.m. and everyone's shocked. You know, foreign countries have it a lot worse. We're complaining, but they'll wake up and Trump tariffed them like 100%. Canadians woke up one day and they were 51st state. You never know. With Donald Trump as president, things are intense all the time. But in the last few weeks and months, the topic that has consumed a lot of people's minds has been the release of the Epstein files, which is something Trump promised to do while campaigning. And then the debacle that happened. We don't have to relitigate the issue. He said, we're releasing them. And then he said, no, they don't exist. It's all a hoax. And then the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed the Epstein estate, and they released thousands of documents into Congress's possession, and those were released. And then Congress still has to vote on this discharge petition that was led by Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, this Democrat from California. So it was this bipartisan petition that gets Congress to vote on whether they release the Epstein files, to force the DOJ to release everything in their possession, except, of course, any objectionable material. Well, that's, of course, going to pass. Republicans are going to vote in favor of it because it's political suicide to vote no on this. But they got the 218 signatures that were necessary to trigger and force the House vote. That's happening this week. And then it'll go to the Senate, where they will have to vote yes. And then Trump will have to sign it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But tonight, after everyone was wondering, what does Trump say about Massey's petition and the push for it? What is he going to say? Is he going to say no? Because that's a bad look. He can't say, oh, guys, don't vote to release the Epstein files. Is he going to push back? And now, in the middle of the night, as he landed in D.C., from Florida, the President of the United States issued a really interesting statement. James Blair, your friendly neighborhood, what's his role again? White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Yep. And he was also on the campaign. He's like our own Lex Luthor. Look at him, man. Look at that shiny head, man. That head's shinier than some people's futures. President Trump said the Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files. Look further into all the Democrats associated with them. Not all the Democrats, just everyone associated. Let's not do Democrats or... Look, Epstein ran a blackmail operation that spanned countries and reached across the aisle. It was a bipartisan thing. It implicates princes, the United Kingdom, prime ministers, Ehud Barak, high levels of, governments across the world. It was not Democrat or Republican. It was just what it was. So I don't know why we have to say, look into all the Democrats associated. There were a lot of other people associated with them, with ours next to their name. And get back to focusing on what's most important. That's what Trump says after they release the Epstein files. Okay, let's read that press release here in its entirety. Well, not a press release. It was just a Truth Social post. As I said on Friday night, I almost forgot. I got to do the accent. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. That's what everyone's been waiting to hear. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics. Why are we still calling it a hoax? Okay, I understand that what is a hoax about Epstein is when Democrats say he was buddy-buddy with Trump and, Trump is implicated. in spite of how many victims have come out and said, no, Trump is actually not implicated. We have accounts of other people doing what they did, but not Trump. The victims' lawyers some years back said Trump was the only one that helped them with credible information. So that is what is a hoax with the Epstein situation. The Democrats consistently trying to make it seem like it's a Trump and Epstein ring, when it's really Epstein and hundreds of our politicians and world leaders, right? That's a hoax. But everything else about Epstein is real. When the DOJ went, oh, there was no blackmail, there was. And that's the part everyone's like, come on, like, what are we doing here? But anyways, he's now saying Republicans should vote to release these files. That means essentially every House Republican will do that. That's a huge statement. I don't know how the Senate's going to vote. It's going to be interesting. But this will force the DOJ to release everything in their possession. And certainly, there are a lot of things in their possession. Pam Bondi said as much. She said, I have the files on my desk right now. A lot of names, a lot of big names are on those files. She said that. Kash Patel hyped it up. And then that hype just died off. So now we can go back to normal, okay? Scheduled programming is back. No more unpredictability. No more of the shenanigans, okay? We can just go to releasing them. Okay. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein. Well, those are releases from years back. When courts forced the DOJ to release those records. Unless you guys have any other information or any other angle I don't know about. So, okay, and the DOJ is looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc. We should add Bill Gates in there and their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big. Our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars of investment into America, a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more. Nobody cared about Epstein when he was alive. Well, except the people who were involved with him, right? Right. If the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Well, that's true. That's the point. I don't know if it's just like there must be like a misunderstanding here, because Trump clearly seems to think that the release of the Epstein files is like a Democrat like push. It's not. It's like a thing that everyone wants. Democrats didn't want it. They only realized that it was politically convenient to attach themselves to the issue. It's a populist issue. It's an issue that gets people off their seats and pays attention to everything else you have to say. When Trump promised to release the files and bring accountability, it wasn't just the Epstein files, it was the JFK files and many other files. It was like a breath of fresh air to hear that, because here's a candidate who is going to win saying, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to release everything we've been lying to you about. So people do care about the Epstein thing. Democrats only care because all the Democrats are implicated in it, but they are pretending that it's an issue for them because they went from a party that was hated universally. Their approval rating, it's still down there, but they somewhat improved their standing with normies, the independent voters, by laser focusing on this issue. And trust me, if Trump isn't releasing a message like this Democrats will use it and blast it everywhere in the midterms, saying Trump stood against this. But now that's cleared. They can't use it anymore, right? And so that's good. But let's not keep doing the nobody cared about him. Of course, like no one really understood what he was doing until he got arrested the second time, because the first time he got away with it. He got a slap on the wrist. And Trump is right. If the Democrats had anything on him and Epstein, they would have released it when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland controlled the DOJ. They would have released it long ago. So they don't have anything incriminating on him. The things that are incriminating implicate a lot of billionaires. Let's talk about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. That's a very important statement at the end there. It's a curse on the Democrats. Reid Hoffman is one of their biggest financiers, and his name is all over that thing. He's implicated all over. The banks that platformed Epstein, like JP Morgan Chase, are huge Democrat donors. The corporations that donated to or worked with Epstein and the Democrats donate to them, they are huge into Epstein. So it's very clear that a total transparent release of the Epstein files, of everything that we know about him, would implicate more Democrats than Republicans. That's common sense. We're talking about Hillary, Bill Clinton. We're talking about the Democrat Congress lady from the Virgin Islands who was caught texting Epstein while in a hearing about Trump. He was coaching her on what to say. So here's something that I think is interesting, right, about Epstein, and a theory as to why I think Trump might be like so opposed to releasing this. Because like even in this message where he's like, release it, it's still like, but it's a Democrat hoax. Here's why I think Trump is doing what he's doing. Epstein was involved with a lot of billionaires, including Trump. They had a relationship at some point. Trump has not been implicated in criminal activity, but being in billionaire circles in New York, they knew each other, and Florida, right? That's what billionaires do. They talk to other billionaires. They don't talk to brokies. They don't talk to brokies. They talk to other billionaires. And so if you think about it, Epstein would have known almost every billionaire in the world, not just the United States, but the world. Who creates the jobs in every country? It's the business class, the entrepreneurs, the billionaires create a lot of jobs. The question is the United States, is our government willing to upset our entire oligarchy, our rich people, our wealth movers, our entrepreneurs in this way? Releasing the Epstein files would mean telling the nation that every billionaire you know that you already don't like because you want their money, every billionaire, or not every, but most of them, or a lot of them, or the most popular ones, are involved with this guy, are involved with this disgusting scheme, this blackmail operation. They were all part of it. They all committed crimes. And if you reveal that they committed crimes, don't you need to put them in jail? And if you put all your billionaires in jail, what happens to your economy? What happens to the companies they created? What happens to the stock market? What happens to the global markets? This is the bigger picture sometimes. Now, I think Trump might have friends that are probably implicated in that. Again, he's a billionaire from New York, and he knew Epstein, and he must have known other billionaires who got dragged into that. But is he willing to upset so many powerful and influential and useful people? That's a very important question, right? It's not as sinister as people think. People say if Trump doesn't want the Epstein files to come out, it must be because he's in every one of, like, he's involved, like he was implicated. What if it's just a calculation? Like, hey, we have a lot of rich people. They create a lot of jobs. And they're all in this thing. Bill Gates is in this. What's going to happen to their hundreds of billions, their trillions? That's just a question. Doesn't mean it's immoral, right? The point of our Constitution and our way of life and our rule of law was to create a country where a billionaire could go to jail for crimes the same way a poor person would. That's an equal application of the law. That's what that means. But we know that's not how it really works in practice. Certain people can get away with certain things. That's why it was so shocking for them to go after Trump the way he did, because inherently we all knew that, or thought that because Trump is rich and because of who he is, they're not going to do that. They're not really going to try to put him in jail. And they tried it anyways. That's why it was so shocking. Because if it was like a regular Joe Schmo president who had no money and they tried to go after him like that, it'd be like, okay, well, that's what happens. But it was like, man, they went after him like he was anyone else. Because we do have a double standard country. There are calculations that go into decisions like this. And so, am I onto something there? Because I think I am. I think there has to be at least some thought to, hey, how many of our precious job creators were on that list? And you have to imagine, not everybody that got entangled with Epstein was in it for a nefarious purpose. Think about it like this, right? Think about it. One of the richest guys you know, who can cut a check if you ever ask him. He has a reputation for being fun and a playboy. He was involved with literally the magazine Playboy. He was involved with it. And everyone you know knows him. So he's like the most popular guy you know. He hits you up and goes, hey, you want to go on my private jet to my private island to go have fun? What are you going to ask? Hey, is everything going to be legal there? No, you're going to be like, yeah, great. Let me get on that plane and go have fun. And then you get entangled in this, and suddenly they have blackmail on you, and now you're a puppet. Now you do whatever they say. So not every single person went into that whole thing, understanding how it worked. Some people certainly did, like the people that were there like a billion times. They certainly understood what they were doing. Bill Clinton. They must have known. But anyways. Yeah. Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's an interesting one because his name is definitely implicated somehow. They exchanged some emails, but I haven't seen anything like incriminating on from that end. But you have a lot of different people involved. It's a huge case. It's also, we have to talk about statutes of limitations, right? The statute of limitations, if we're going to call it an ongoing conspiracy, then it's endless. It never expires. But if we're going to call it what it is, which is something that happened years ago, Epstein's dead, right? The crimes he got put in jail for, were things from years before that. And if you're going to go after people who did those things when he was doing them years before he even got put in jail, then you're going to be talking a lot about statutes of limitations. Now, to me, they're crimes against humanity, and you have to pursue them. But this is just the nature of the country we're in. It's going to be very hard to get all these people. But anyways, this is a very important message from Trump saying, hey, look, release the files. We're back on track, ladies and gentlemen. We're back on track, okay? We derailed a little bit. We did an East Palestine, Ohio, but now we're back on track. No train derailment. We're back in, moving in the right direction. Someone said, those billionaires have companies that all have boards they can handle. I think I'm kind of referring to the bigger picture. Like, yeah, there would be like a global economic crash if, 50% of the billionaires went to jail, right? There would be, there would just be like an economic freeze. But I'm not saying that's an excuse, by the way. I'm just saying this might be a thought process that someone like Trump goes through, right? Because Trump has the power to unleash literal chaos by locking so many people up. And you can imagine he's thinking constantly like, okay, what's up? How do we do this? Because Trump must have known Democrats, well, it wasn't really just Democrats. The House Oversight Committee was going to release or get access to all those files, right? The DOJ briefed them on those things. They told them your name is involved here, and that and the other. And now, as far as we know, the things Trump would have been involved in or mentioned in have been released, and none of them are incriminating in that degree or in that sense. But there's like a rumor going around that Trump and Bill Gates, like Trump did something with Bill Gates, and not Bill Gates, Bill Clinton. Come on. Like that's like some propaganda to that next level. Like Trump is straight, okay? Like people just like it just came out of nowhere. Like they said Trump did something Hillary Clinton didn't do for Bill Gates or Bill Clinton. Trump took Hillary's place for a second and got on his knees. Like, come on, what are we doing here? Like, that's just fake news. And yeah, but that in a way, like this is what happens when we don't push for transparency. People come up with these things and they run with it. And normies believe it. Normies are just not as informed as the average political consumer. They are constantly worrying about other things, but when they see a headline like that, they'll believe it. And now I go on TikTok and there's memes about this, and it's like, it's frustrating to just see because it's a lie. It's like with the tariffs. People just lied about the tariffs. They just lied. We're going to have a recession. The tariffs are going to destroy the economy. And it's like, okay, well, they haven't. Are you going to apologize? It's similar to the BBC. The BBC said, or they edited the footage and lied to their audience, to British people, pretended like Trump told people to go fight at the Capitol on J6. But they just spliced it up, and it was a lie. And then fast forward to 2025, they're like apologizing. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything because all your normie viewers already believed you 5 years ago and the damage has been done. So pay up. Trump better sue those people for billions because that was just like a lie and they admitted it. And the letters prove that there was malice. And in defamation, you have to demonstrate malice. Someone can lie by just lying, but if they don't actually mean it, like if they don't strategize and plan out the lie, it's hard to reach that defamation slander threshold. But now you can if you have internal emails of them saying this is what you're doing. They got warning from their oversight people saying, you lied here, why are you doing this? And they still did it, so Trump better sue them. But anyways, I just want justice for the victims of this ring, this blackmail operation. I just want justice for them. We can't be the United States under blackmail, okay? We can't be a nation under blackmail. It's a very important thing to straighten out what happened over the years behind the scenes. And I don't like it when certain Trump supporters, uh, like they went, nah, it was a hoax. It was all a hoax. What? So Ghislaine Maxwell should just be freed because it was a hoax? Come on. Like, you might not know why he's saying what he's saying. Like, you might not see, like, what he's seeing. He might have friends on that thing. Like, he might have a legitimately personal reason that is different from what the Democrats say. The Democrats say he's just on it. Like, he's just one of the people that was on it. But he might have, like, a much bigger reason why he's saying it. Saying we should just move on from this. And I don't think we can move on from this. This is an injustice that occurred, and we'll never really truly move on until justice is achieved. And, you know, I just hope that Trump fulfills what he said. And it's a good start that he told Pam Bondi to look after Epstein's connections. But we need to just remove the with Democrats part. We need to just do the whole thing. But why are we even investigating this? We know who he was involved with. The limited documents the courts have forced the DOJ over the years to release have demonstrated who he was involved with. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, all these people. So, yeah, we know as much. Like they can literally upload those documents to Grok at the DOJ and just tell Grok, hey, just give me quotes of every time Democrats were mentioned. And then we'll know how many Democrats are connected. But the point is, it wasn't just Democrats. It was a whole of government effort. Like the entirety of our political system was hijacked by Epstein. Another angle could be foreign intelligence, foreign influence. And it could also be domestic foreign influence. Our CIA could be all over it. You know, if it turns out that Mossad and the CIA were in this joint operation, that would mean that our own government was doing this, right? It was behind this, and Epstein was just the front man. So there's other angles, like there's other reasons why he might be saying don't release it. But ultimately, we just stand by what's true. Like we need to actually get to the bottom of this. And we were promised that, and we will hopefully, by the grace of God, get it. So, anyways, this is going to be a lot shorter than last night's stream. That one was not last night. It was Friday, right? Yeah, it's definitely a lot shorter. But just needed to get this news and information out there. Very happy that Trump is announcing this in the middle of the night. You know, I haven't eaten all day. Oh my gosh. Yeah, hands up, I gotta confess, okay? I'm not Catholic, but I gotta confess. As much as I complain about how woke the NFL is, I do watch it. And that's why so many videos came out so late. Because I was watching the NFL. I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's a great player. He's a very, very good player. I only like him because he said trust Trump that one time. And I'm like, okay. And he retweeted Charlie Kirk many times. So that tells you his head is in the right place. I've noticed that a lot of the NFL, although their organizations are like demon-filled, a lot of the players are like devout Christians. I think probably like 80% of the NFL's rosters are just very Christian. Like all of them talk about Jesus. And yeah, maybe their lifestyles aren't like perfect, but who else's lifestyle is perfect? But those players love Christ. They pray. They'll paint a cross on their faces, and it's like, that's spreading the gospel, you know? That's spreading the gospel. And a lot of young players look up to them. You have players at universities looking up to the NFL players, and they're seeing Christ present in their lives, and they're also opening their hearts to Christ because of that. I mean, Ohio State are full of Christians. The only thing Ohio State and Michigan have in common is their overwhelming love of Christ within their player team, their players. So it's It's really interesting. I love that. I love that. But it was a horrible game between the Browns and Ravens. I just don't I don't like Myles Garrett. I don't like defensive players that make everyone. But if both teams had bad defenses, we would see high score games, beautiful attacking moves. We'd see great plays. We'd see amazing passes, but you have defensive negative. I don't like defensive players. They're negative all the time. Myles Garrett just wants to sack your favorite quarterback. I don't like that. But anyways, that's that. You watch your 49ers play? Okay. Yep. Virgin Islands, Stacy Plaskett, or Plackett, whatever her name is. Yep, she was caught texting Big E, Jeffrey Epstein. So, new subscriber. Hello, Larry. Welcome to the channel if you're new. Thank you for my service. I'm not in the military. I'm sitting here talking about politics. I'm talking to myself, literally, right? Because I'm in this room by myself and I'm screaming at my camera by myself. There's no producer, nothing. I'm clicking buttons and come on, that's not service. That's obsession. I'm obsessed. I wonder what my life is going to look like after Trump, because he's the reason I vote Republican. Republicans are going to have to convince me to vote for them, because for years I voted for them because Trump. Like that's it, right? I became a voter because of Trump. I was always a conservative, and I'm always going to be a conservative. But they have to now like convince me through actions. Trump's letting them get away with a lot of things. So, his presence has given them, votes that they otherwise would not have had, and they're gonna have to campaign and have charisma. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But, anyways, maybe I won't be making videos after. No. I'm still going to be interested in politics, of course. It's just going to be different, and I don't know how that's going to look like because I'm not God. I can't look 5 years into the future. Make the soups feed your lungs. Okay. He's a hard act to follow. Yeah, J.D. Vance is going to have his job cut out for him if he's going to be the heir apparent, People say Rubio, Vance. Yeah, Vance might win the Republican primary, but the reason Trump won was because of the coalition he built. Does J.D. Vance have the sauce that Trump has? We'll see. I mean, the midterms are going to be a big test for J.D. Vance, because he's going to have a lot of responsibilities. He's going to have to go across the country and convince a lot of voters to turn out. And if Republicans perform well in the midterms, then, that might aid Vance in capturing the minds and hearts of the MAGA base. Anyways, do I like Vance? Me and Vance had an interesting relationship. Okay? Here's my relationship with J.D. Vance. I didn't like him before Trump picked him as vice president because he spent years calling Trump a Nazi, right? So to me, he was like, I thought he was a false convert for a while, but I did like his tenure in the Senate, and I wanted him to remain in the Senate. But then Trump picked him as VP, and I have to say, he has impressed me in a lot of ways. So, and he campaigned very well. I actually tried to interview him for like an X show. So I reached out to the campaign people that followed me from his side, because the vice president and the president, when they're candidates, they have their separate teams. So I knew a lot of the Trump people, but I only knew one Vance person, and I tried to push for the interview. It was going to be me going out to a campaign event and then getting like a 10-minute interview with him. and I had a whole strategy written down of how I was going to make it go viral. It was gonna take over the world, actually. But that didn't materialize. So, but yeah, I've been impressed with Vance on foreign policy. I like that he pushed back against, the bombs. I like that he's more of a non-interventionist. So I do appreciate that. I like that he's willing to go to college campuses and get asked about his family, you know. And yeah, I think he's solid. He's been solid so far. But people that go, he's the greatest vice president in the history of my lifetime. And it's like, don't we say that every time we like someone? Like, he's the greatest in the history of my lifetime. Like, why don't we just wait for like, it's been a year, like, actually less than a year since January 20th. Let's let him do the 4 years as a vice president. Also, being a vice president doesn't really mean anything until the entirety of your term is fulfilled. Then people look back and go, where did you influence the president? Where could your influence, what things did you do in the 4 years you had power? How did you help the president, and which agenda were you heavily involved in? And I think we won't really know that until the 4 years are over, and then we can assess Vance. Same thing with Kamala Harris. She was like just the cackling dragon for 4 years. Certainly, I love the Zelensky thing. I think that's his best moment. That was the moment where I was like, okay, this guy's, he means it. He means it. Because I was like, you know what? I'm still skeptical. Like, I don't know if he's like, if he just, converted to MAGA for real. And then, man, when he cooked Zelensky, oof, I was like, all right, cool. He's the real deal. But let's wait it out for 4 years and get more of those moments. And then, because I do like his story, I watched the movie, the Hillbilly Elegy movie. Great story, great background, and very relational, a very, relational, no. Relatable, oh yeah, a very relatable story, right? I didn't go to Yale, but I can relate with the struggles of coming from the trenches. This guy literally came from the trenches. Your mom being addicted on drugs, but you persevering through all the challenges of your youth and becoming vice president. That's becoming Senate first and then vice president, and building a company in the interim. That's beautiful. That's great stuff. So yeah, we'll see. But 2028 is a long ways away, and I don't like talking about the future. The 2028 is 3 years away. It's going to be 2 years away next year. Dang. And next year is in a month. In a month and 2 weeks. Oof. But then we can start talking about the future. Anyways, Lord, we thank you very much for giving us America. I pray, God, for justice, accountability, truth to be exposed, and for the victims of evil to get the justice that they have been crying for. Lord, comfort those who need comfort, those who mourn, and those who just seek and earnestly desire justice for themselves, for the abuses that happened on them at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and that whole operation. And don't allow their cries to go in vain. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. That was fun. Good message from Trump. And I am so hungry. I haven't eaten all day. I don't know what I've been doing except watching the NFL, doing 50 billion videos, doing this live stream. And I don't know what I'm going to eat. There's no Chick-fil-A I can order. Yeah. I might just make an egg or something. Yeah, just eat an egg. All right, good night.